Hello? 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 It's me? Wow. We're just jumping right into it. Actually, I clicked on the wrong button. So here we are. Looking at a black screen, since that's the fade-in screen that we have going on right now. Drinking it's not, I don't know what it is. It's not a beer. It's hard kombucha. It's USDA organic. It has adaptogens in it. I don't know what that means. Non-GMO, which I think that is like literally false. Unless they like harvested the what the heck is kombucha fermented from? Unless they harvested whatever it was from like the wild. Everything is technically GMO, but or most things people eat nowadays are technically GMO. Just not like chemically GMO. They're still genetically selected by humans. But anyways, that's like it's being pedantic. It's vegan, it's keto. I'm not vegan nor keto. I was unintentionally vegetarian for a little bit though. Anyways, let's get through this, and then after the stream I need to take apart my computer and then send in a picture of one of my RAM sticks. I don't know why I need to take a picture of my RAM instead of like them just checking it, but whatever. But one of my RAM sticks has a flipped bit, and I think it might potentially be on both, which would be very sad. Let me see, we're looking at the wrong thing. I was doing some Godot 4 stuff, or at least updating some stuff for Godot 4, but that's neither here nor there. Where are we? What are we doing? All right, so this is the WebSocket controller stuff. Not so bad. Okay, so where did I leave off though? I remember I was working on this last Thursday. Couldn't work on this last Sunday, aka like 2 days ago, because I was very tired, and I actually am still very tired because I helped somebody move. Okay, so we have all of these. We have the button. Did the translations get updated? Or at least where are these things coming from? BRB. I'm gonna turn on a fan. Okay, my ceiling fan. Alright, there we go. I keep it pretty warm in here. At 77 Fahrenheit. Not 77 Celsius, that would be like sauna. Actually, how hot is a sauna? Average or sauna temp Celsius. What temperature should sauna be in Celsius? Oh yeah, about 77. I don't program instead of a sauna, that would be ridiculous. Okay, so this needs to be different. This is a placeholder, so we don't even care. Okay. Config keys. This stuff should be none option. Remote control server, rest. socket server. Okay. Not so bad. Remote control GUI. We don't need most of these to be open. But where is... So remote control extension, blah, blah. Control server. I do like the syntax I come up with this. Or how I came up with the syntax for this. Because it's pretty easy to collate it back into a CSV file. But it's also very easy to parse visually, which is nice. Moves into here. So this is some sort of REST server. We'll call it a TCP server. And we'll call it I suppose we'll call it. No, I'm not gonna put server into it. It's just REST, because it accepts REST requests. It's the easiest one to parse, I think. Although it might be more taxing on the CPU, because then you need to have the, well, for all of the other ones, you also need to have the server just up and polling. So whatever. Okay. Remote control server type. That's not actually a translation key. What am I doing? So this is start. Okay. So I think this actually needs to be a var, which makes this kind of weird, but it does need to be evaluated immediately. Or maybe not. Let's think about it. Maybe not. Where do I use this? Start button text. Alright, so I'm just translating it here, so this should just be translated here as well. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, okay. Some errors. Previously selected item found. Okay. What else? Remote control server is null. Server object is null. then server thread is null. Thread object is null. Okay. Which means that we run this just to make sure I'm not crazy. All this stuff loads in. Okay, cool. Very nice. And then in translation key should be okay. Remote control extension uses the same translation key. Okay. Neat. Okay. So where did I leave off? Let me see. On listener type pressed, what was I doing? Pop-up menu, like this is okay, right? So you need to be able to select stuff. I want to say I ended here, but I don't know. Maybe here? Maybe not. So I don't think this button, like start server, stop server. So stop server is implemented. This is actually not finished implementing. Thread, wait to finish. Thread, what did I call it? Server thread? Listen thread. Listen thread, wait to finish, and then listen thread needs to be nulled out. Because once the thread is cleaned up, it's no longer valid. So we just need to unreference it. Whereas the server doesn't really matter, but we can just unreference it if we need to. Yeah. Let me think. Hello, the big Lee, how are you? Just kind of floundering here. I'm trying to figure out where did I leave off last Thursday. That was the last time I seriously tried working on this. Good. That's good. It's good that you're good. Good golly, it's good to be good. Tried to shoehorn more alliteration into that. I would go to the VOD. Well, lucky for you, there are just a ton of VODs. Yeah. There are a ton of VODs. Because I upload everything to my YouTube. I don't remember if my YouTube is actually linked to my Twitch. It probably is. I don't know. I've never really thought there's too much like value to the VODs, since you're mostly just hearing me ramble to myself, so you're unless you just enjoy the sound of my voice. In which case, that's appreciated. The dulcet tones. Otherwise, it's really like asking questions and stuff, right? Because I don't usually like to join random Discord calls just to talk with people. You're trying to figure out where you left out, that would be a good way. Yeah, well, I suppose I could look at my own VOD. I'm not going to, though. It always makes me a little uncomfortable to look at my... to look at my VODs. It's like, oh no, what am I talking about? Oftentimes I don't even know what I'm talking about. I just kind of let my brain handle that. I let my subconscious handle the topics, whereas my conscious brain is actively thinking about something completely different, which is this right here. So here we need to figure out whether or not we want to disable or enable the button. So stop server, that's for our server thread or listen thread, whatever. Start button disabled. Enable the button if appropriate. And then we also need to change the button text. Actually, this is false as well. Right? So if that's kind of tough actually, because you need to keep the button enabled. You need to keep the button enabled while the server is running. Yeah, actually, I think that's pretty easy. So if not stop server, then start button disabled is equal to false, and then we'll just bail out. So let's add an explanation. Always keep the start button enabled while the server is running. So this is just a flag that's supposed to be read by the thread. So the thread will know when to stop like spinning via this variable here. Otherwise it will just continuously pull for inputs. All right, because you need to pull it somewhere. At some point you need to pull for inputs. But here, I guess that's fine. Actually, yeah. As long as we just do everything based off of this flag, then we can do this. So start button disabled is equal to IDX is equal to listener types none. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah, look at that. Is there any reason why that wouldn't be good? So we short circuit here because if the server is running, you never want to disable the button anyways. Otherwise, you want to disable it if listener types is none. Thinking. Yes. Because you short circuit here, and there's no other reason why this wouldn't work, except in HTML5 builds, but in HTML5 builds I would probably wouldn't redistribute this anyways. Actually, we can do this. So not stop server, or yeah, look at that. A nice one-liner with an or clause. So if it's, oh wait. Hold on. Does that make sense? This should be, if it's stop server, so where the server is currently stopped, then we should disable the, wait. Hold on. If stop server is false, I'm confusing myself. Because disabled is actually the inverse of what you think it should be. So stop server, so if stop server is true, stop server is false, then it's currently running. I'm confused. All right, let's just separate it. This logic is confusing me. This is obvious. Server is running, don't disable the button. Otherwise, if the index that we clicked on is listener types none, then just keep it like that. Yeah, okay. Cool. So then we load this in. So it's currently none. I think we do need to initially select an option. So you can see that none is here, REST, WebSocket, UDP, and then those are all translatable. So here in the init function, we do need to grab the server type, which is this key. Config keys. Item set checked. And is it possible for me to... Is it possible for me to force a button press? So pop-up, what do we got? So this is a pop-up menu. Pop-up menu. Some sort of pop-up. Pop-up we don't really care about, but then can I toggle item checked? Is this new? I don't recognize this. Toggle items, toggle the check state of the item specified index. I think I've been using set item checked somewhere. Set item checked? Set item, check item? What am I using? Set item checked, yeah? Am I crazy? Yeah. But then does that, I'm assuming that does not hit the connection. Yeah. What if I do pop up toggle item checked? Does that make a difference? So go here, 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 nope. So I want this to toggle and trigger this signal. I guess what I can do is I can, well, I'll keep this, but then I can manually emit that signal. It's a bit weird. Emit signal. What is it? Index pressed. And then the parameter, and then we'll just pass along the pop-up as well. Okay, I'm pretty sure that will be fine, maybe. Because this is in init, right? Okay, maybe not. What is this? Well, that's fine, actually. That's completely fine. It's weird. Oh, because it's not the index. No, it is the index. What? It should be safely wrapped though? Question mark. Result is null. Wait, no, that's because it's the value that we pulled from the config is null. That's right. But then we shouldn't be exploding here. Right, this should be null safe, right? Am I wrong about that? So we hit an error, which is kind of weird. So at 47, yeah. Eh? Result is null. Safely wrap. Oh, no, that's expected. Yes, that's expected. Yes. Because when you safely wrap it, it checks to see what value was returned. And then get data will return null if no applicable data is passed. That's right. So it will tell you an error, and then here we should enter, yeah, no valued value, so none. Oh, okay, I see. So then we can do this. Or can I get the checked item? Is there an easy way for me to do that? Get checked item. Get is item checkable. Get item. Remove item. Clear. No. Add check item. No. Oh, search. What is this? Allow navigating pop-up menu with keys. Defaults to false. Yeah, that's probably fine. But I see. This is supposed to be like this. Listener types dot none. Yeah, there we go. And then we can even do pop-up toggle item checked. Listener types none. That should be fine, and we can take this out. Run through here. Now we have 8 errors. 8 errors. Object emit signal, error calling method from signal index pressed. Method expected 2 method arguments, or method expected 2 arguments but called with 3. Really? Selected method expected 1 arguments. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So these need to be wrapped because those are how you pass arguments. All right. And then there were 2 errors actually. Maybe not. Oh, it's just here twice. Very good. Boom. All right, what is it? Cannot convert argument 1 from array to int. Emit signal. Is that not what emit signal does? No, it takes var args. Yeah. Yeah, it's only when you connect that you need to pass them in an array, in an array. Yeah. So if you run through this again, clearly brain is not firing on all cylinders. Yeah. So that's expected. But then it's just here. Method expected 2 arguments, but called with 3. Or calling method from signal. Listener type pressed. Yeah. Yeah? Option button selected. What is option button selected? Method expected 1 arguments but called with 2. Oh, is this is just one of the methods that you're not allowed to manually. Oh, why am I trying to do it like this? I can just do it like this. Why am I making this so complicated? We can just call the method directly. It's right here. So pass that in and then pop up. Yeah, there we go. So that should be fine. Click there. Very good. Oh, hello? FBI? Please no. How'd you find me out? I use a VPN. Invalid set index disabled on base nil with value a type bool. Is start button an on ready thing? Start button. Oh, I see. It's just a timing thing. Just a timing thing. So let's move this stuff around. FBI, open up. All right, just a lot of faffing about just to get this to work. What else should go into here though? We still have one error. That's fine. For whatever reason, this is not being caught by the app manager, which is weird because it should be able to just pull in a value whenever. Yeah. So we look here, ignore this. This is not our metadata.json that we want to look at. This should be the duck.json. So config name, is there an other? Or is it leaving it out? It appears to be leaving it out, which is unfortunate. Model path, yes. Yeah. Or maybe it's not even saving it? I think I need more logging. So we click on this, remote control, pop up, set up. Okay. Are we gonna save? Or no? Go back to main menu, go back to here, because that forces a save, and then this causes an error. So key remote control server type not found in model config and metadata, creating using default value. No valid value found for. And then why is the current index being set to... Oh, that's the current index anyways. Oh, that's how you can find the current focused item. Maybe current index is not what I want to be using. Returns a -1 if no item is focused, which is, that's what you want to use generally. Maybe not in this instance. Yeah. Because we should be setting it checked, but it says that this is the current focused item, so that's probably not what I want. That's just a horribly cursed set of emotes. So I think what I need to do is this. So we set this to -1, and then we just need to run through every single thingy. In the pop-up menu. So get item count for I in pop-up get item count. So if pop-up get item, or is item checked? Is item checked? Then current index is equal to I, and then I'll break. You see, worse, I had some cartoon hands I would wiggle. It is pretty cool. I've been really lazy about getting new emotes. I do have like a ton of open emote slots now, but I don't know. I'm lazy. So boom. No previously selected item found. That doesn't make sense to me. No previously selected item found. Eh? How is this possible? They should be checked. Yeah. Okay. Current index. Current index is equal I, blah, blah. For I in get item count. Yeah. is item checked? What the? It is checked. Is it not? What? What? This seems like a bug? What? Hold on. Okay. So we'll go here, pop up, set item checked. True. That doesn't seem right to me. Set item checked. Because I am checking it. I am checking them here. Is this a bug? So go here, here. So that it should be checked. Not seems like a bug. That's almost certainly a bug because I didn't pull an item because of another bug, right? I'm not actually writing it to the config file. Yeah, okay, interesting. That's cool. And by cool, I mean like annoying, but I get it. Let me see if I can reproduce that. Let me see if I can reproduce that. So we go Godot engine, just create a new Scratch project. All right, most of this stuff is just absolute garbage. But such is the life of a Scratch file. So I have an option button somewhere, yeah. So we have these items, blah, blah, pop up, it doesn't matter. So button, toggle, or hold on. Var pop up is equal to button get pop up, toggle, toggle item checked, set it equal to an explicit index. So pop up, connect. I think it's like index pressed. Yeah, index pressed. Self. Let's call it option. Also do it out of order. Option, so we have some sort of index, and then we'll also pass along the pop-up like this. Just so we can recreate what I was doing here. Current. I think this is a must do for pretty much everyone. Like even if you're not a fan of static typing, you do need to accurately define whether or not this is supposed to be an integer or a float. Because sometimes Godot will just say like, oh, negative number, that's a float, no matter what. Which is unfortunate to say the least. Yeah, it's one of the things I don't understand about the arguments against static typing. It's like, it just makes it so you don't know what you're dealing with. It's like, is it a float or is it an integer? Aren't they the same thing? Absolutely not. They're very, very different. Don't know. No, it's static typing, not state typing. Static typing. So static typing is adding these annotations after the variable. So for example, our underscore option function is state typing. So we have a variable called index, and we're annotating it with the type int. We have a variable or a parameter, which is a variable. Pop-up, which is of type pop-up menu, right? So if I didn't have these, you would have no idea what these are. Like index, that's usually assumed to be an integer. Pop-up, you would just have no idea. Is it just like a regular pop-up? Is it a pop-up menu? What can I do with it, you know? I know some people are like heavily one side or the other. I myself am heavily like in favor of static typing. Super, super heavily in favor of it. Right? Like, yes, is it more to read? Yes. But even then, like, I don't really read most of the code, right? I've mentioned it before, but I don't read the entire function. I read this part, and then I skip to the end and read a few lines under that. Or over that. So for I in pop-up, get item counts. If if pop-up is item checked I don't know, pop-up gets item text I, then just break. So what we're expecting is this button set item, or I guess toggle item, right? No, it needs to be done on the pop-up. Toggle item checked. Okay, that's fine, that's fine. So what we would expect is for this to immediately print the item text, and it does. So it's not a bug, it works, but maybe just not here? What? Am I crazy? What? Pop-up, toggle item checked. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Types none, and then I've explicitly defined none to be 0, so it's always going to be greater than -1. Right, and this is where we're running into the error here. Remote control server, we run into an error. No previously selected item found. Is it because I'm doing this? No, I'm doing this in, no, this here is ready. This is in init. That might be doing a thing, possibly. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that could be causing errors. So I could change this to init and see if that makes a difference. Because I'm looking at the console outputs, you know, comparing. Okay, so I can't do that. Right, that's right. Not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to access scene items in init, because init is when it's created. But accessing these is just syntactic sugar for get node, so those might not actually exist, right? So let me see. Yeah, I don't know. I'm doing something wrong, I guess, because it works in a simpler example, but whatever. We'll just do it like this for now. Maybe there's a difference between init and ready. Maybe there isn't. I'll need to check it later. And by check it later, I mean just push it off until I run into the error again, and then be confused yet again. Okay. But this will work. Still not super sure why this isn't firing correctly, but we can set a breakpoint there. Just a lot of debugging, and then in our config manager, where is my config manager? This will catch this probably here. We'll have to see. Oh, you know what? The reason why it's not catching it is because we need to register this. We need to register ourselves with the config manager. That's right. So am cm. Yeah, am cm register Runtime subscribe to. Oh, what is it called? Publish. Signal name. Runtime subscribe. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, it should be runtime subscribe. So AMCM runtime subscribe to signal. And so we are runtime subscribing to config keys, remote control server type. That's pretty much it, right? Yeah. And then this should be saving it now. Yeah, probably. Maybe. So I'll go here. Go here. Close that. Okay, now we are saving. Cool. But now we're not setting this properly, which is unfortunate. Oh, how is this possible? It's just not displaying the right thing anymore. So it's working, right? Because previously when it's none, the button is disabled. Makes sense. Rest, it's enabled. Rest, it's still enabled as rest, but it's displaying none. Is that? Okay, so let's do option button. What? Okay, so what can we do here? Okay, so we can get this selected item like that. That's not hard. Set item disabled. No. I'm thinking. We're learning. We're learning. It's all a learning experience. So here, I think we should actually be passing along the option button, not the pop-up. So we can always grab the pop-up later from the option button. So here, pass along the option button, not the pop-up. So similarly here, we need to pass along the option button. This one. So this is the OB, the option button. We'll just grab the pop-up. It seems a bit inefficient, and you would be 100% correct in thinking that. That's fine, because there are certain things that are just easier to do. So for example, this. So we need to do option button selected. Yeah. Or I guess we don't even need this. Well, yeah, we know we do need it. Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, that's fine. We'll keep it like so. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Then here, set item checked. It's the index item text. So we publish it, and then we also want to do OB text is equal to item text. So that should be handled for me automatically. Who are you, Bigly? Are you someone? are you someone else? No. Okay. I guess there's just a few people that like to use very strange emotes. That one on the right's kind of freaking me out. The one on the left's pretty good. The one on the right, making me a little uncomfortable. Potentially more uncomfortable than like the demon you posted earlier. But the demon's okay. Like, I get it. You know, you're a fan of Goatsy or whatever. Anime girl though with Google eyes. Or googly eyes. Sorry. That's freaking me out. Anime girls with like non-standard anime eyes. That's weird. All right. Oh geez. See, that's so. Look at that. That's bizarre. So if you do boom boom. No. Eh. No. Eh. Yeah. See, now this is weird because it doesn't untoggle it properly. What the heck is going on? Why am I having so much trouble with this? I've done this before. I've done this before. Is selected. You said ghost. I know what that is. Yeah. I'm glad you know what that is because I also know what that is. That would be kind of awkward if you didn't know and then you Googled it. It's like a drive-by shock image, but it's not even an image. It's just like a shock word. Yeah, don't Google that if you're easily disturbed, I guess. Like blue waffles? Exactly. I'm glad to know that you are probably some sort of millennial. Or do those transcend my generation? Set item checked. And I think I just need to set like a bunch of things as checked. So OB selected is equal to listener types. Because I feel like it's not getting propagated for whatever reason. I have no idea why. That's the only reasonable explanation for me. Let's just say I was born in the late 80s. Okay, so you are like some sort of millennial. That's millennial enough. If you were born in the late 80s, that means you grew up in the 90s, which is millennial. The 90s culture. I was born in the mid 90s. So it's hard to say that I would be a millennial, but I'm on the tail end. You know. Still grew up using, used floppy disks for like kindergarten and first grade. Your status on the council, you're not a master. That's unreasonable. That's unfair. God, it's been so long since I've seen episode 2. What does he say after that? This is it's a Master Windu. You've been in so many great movies. Why would you tarnish your reputation by being in episode 2? Alright. Man, episode 2 is still like a pretty decent watch. I'm assuming that that's what you know that quote is from episode 2. Star Wars episode 2. Like episode 3, still okay. Episode 2, I like the scale of it, but the CGI 100% does not hold up. Episode 1 is just garbage all around. Like I tried to watch it again. I think it's the only movie in that trilogy, in the prequel trilogy, that I fell asleep during. Like episode 2, it's okay. I like the clone battles. Episode 3, kind of, it's okay. I like the CGI. 4 through 6, very good. 7 through 9, hot garbage. But still better than episode 1. Kind of Star Wars. Anime series a little better. Which animated series? They have a few animated series, right? I like the ones that focus on the clone troopers. Those are pretty good. I think those are also like only 15 minutes long. I was also like not allowed to watch those when I was a kid because they were too violent. I mean, yeah, actually, like they were kind of like pretty violent, just no blood, but you know, We have like Mace Windu jumping into a pile of super battle droids. You have the clone commandos doing the clone commando thing, which I thought was like really cool. I drew a lot of pictures of those guys. Are you talking about Super Robot Monkey King Awesome Force Go? I have no idea what you're talking about, but yes. Yes, I like the name, so yes. When in doubt, say yes. Let me see. Start server. So we do want to create a new server thread. The connection we also don't really know what is going to be. So server. Oh, we actually need to grab the. Oh my god. Okay, so we need to store the option button. Okay. So the server type. Server selector, which is some sort of option button. Okay, so so this needs to be server selector. It was a really weird Disney Getic show during the early 2000s. I don't think so. I'm talking about where did ARC Troopers Cartoon Network? ARC Troopers, Star Wars, Clone Wars, something like that. Yeah, this thing. Yeah, whatever cartoon this was. you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, the Samurai Jack one. Yeah, or from the same creator as Samurai Jack. Like, I thought this cartoon was really good. This one was super sick. Samurai Jack I was also not allowed to watch when I was a kid, but I think that's actually a good thing. Samurai Jack was like surprisingly depressing. I know it wasn't finished, but then they got funding to finish it later on, right? But if you watch Samurai Jack like all the way through, it's like he's trying to go home, but like every single time he triumphs, he's just like, you know what? How about no? So, okay, well, you know, that's kind of sad. It's like suffering the cartoon, right? Or am I remembering that wrong? Like, he has to fight his way through just countless waves of BS. But then every single time it's like, oh, portal's closed, or oh, like, you can go instead of me. Does that actually happen at the end? What happened at the end? Actually, don't spoil it. I haven't seen the ending. I think there's a lot of series that do benefit from having an unhappy ending. So, I mean, if it's not a happy ending at the end, like if Samurai Jack like freaking dies, I guess that's fitting. The message is like extremely nihilistic. And it's like you can struggle as much as you want or whatever, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I tried so hard and got so far. One of those. So start server, so we can match server selector selected against what are we thinking about? Listener types. So listener types rest. We'll want to do a thing. Let me open this up on another tab just so I know what the keys I'm even working with are. Same creator also made the original Hotel Transylvania series and a Popeye short. He made a Popeye short? I've actually seen like a pretty good amount of Popeye because my dad was a fan of Popeye, I think. Hotel Transylvania? I don't... That sounds really familiar, but I don't know. Hotel Transylvania? Series? That sounds familiar. I'm not sure if I've seen it though. No, yeah, I've Googled it. It does not look familiar. Actually, you know what? This guy looks familiar. This guy looks familiar. Everyone else does not look familiar to me though. The original movie? I don't know. Let's see, WebSockets. Pass. And otherwise, everything else is an error, so there should be logger error. Yeah. Popeye though, pretty good. Eat your spinach, etc., etc. Don't remember what his is it his girlfriend? I don't remember what her name is. But if I saw it, I would know it 100%. They tried making a CG animated movie, it got locked away, and he made it. If the characters looked like the 2D ones, I do not recognize it. I do not recognize it in that case. I must be thinking of something else. Remote control server. Server. Invalid server type. Invalid server type. Or tried to start invalid server type. Popeye? Oh, for Popeye? They tried to make a CG movie for Popeye? Really? So Popeye... Poppers. Popeye CGI movie. Oh, is this recent? Or it's like recent enough? What's her name? That's really bothering me now. It's like a two-word name, isn't it? What's her name? Popeye. And that was bothering me. I know her name. Popeye characters. It's like a two-word name, isn't it? Popeye. Characters. Characters. Hold on, we can find it. There's just too many characters. There's too many Google results for me to find it. I could show you a link. Hold on, I need to find out. What's the girl's name? Who is this? Who is this? I don't know who this is. I also recognize this lad, but I don't remember his name. Actually, olive oil! Oh, okay. I could have guessed that eventually. Olive oil. Okay. Sweet Pea, I also know. I don't know who the heck this is. Oscar, probably. Who is this? Who is this lad? I'm not gonna click on it. Anyways. Yeah, not super interested in watching the Popeye animated movie. Gonna be honest though. It's actually been quite a little bit since I've seen a movie. Yeah. I think the last movie I saw was the Demon Slayer Mugen Train movie. That was a pretty good one. I had already watched it, all the episodes, but I watched it as like a refresher before I started the next season. It's pretty good. And then before that, I watched Margin Call, which is not an anime. Although some may argue that financial trading is the anime of Western culture. Because of how just ridiculous like Wall Street trading is. All right. So this this is just not yet implemented, I guess. So we'll do logger error not yet implemented. WebSocket, this should be pretty easy. So this is actually going to have to, depends on another package I wrote. So it's called HTTP util. Watch Sonic the Hedgehog 2 because I took my son to the movies. Offspring. The thing my parents have started to bug me about. I do not have any offspring. And let me tell you, trying to date during the last 2 years has been pretty tough as well. I am not very good at like the entire texting thing. Yeah. Not very good at the entire texting thing. But here, this is probably what I'm going to have to steal from myself because I wrote this. So take this server thing and then just kind of set it up. It's actually like pretty difficult because Godot does not give you a lot of things for free in terms of like handling TCP requests. In this case, I'm just assuming everything is like a REST request, which is tough. Children are not for everyone? Oh yeah, for sure. I think children are a very, whatchamacallit? It's very hit or miss for me when I'm interacting with them, because I used to tutor kids, right? I used to be one of those graders at a Kumon. Kumon? Not pronounced come on. That's that's something different. And so I remember like some kids would explicitly ask like, please don't give me Mr. Tim as my grader. And then some kids would be like, yes, please. I want Mr. Tim to explain this stuff to me. Because I think my demeanor with kids is pretty much the same demeanor I use with everyone, in that I just treat them like a like a small adult, which kind of scares some kids. Ow. Yeah, I don't really have the... I was about to say like a good bedside manner, which is true, but that's not that's not the correct not the correct term for dealing with children. It's I don't know. I just don't like to baby people, regardless of age. You know, you're talking to someone my age, like, hey, what's up? You're talking to like an old person, hey, what's up? Talking to like a 3-year-old, hey, what's up? I don't know. I try not to talk about drinking too much to anyone outside my age group, though, so I don't sound like too much of a degenerate. All right, so I guess this will just have to stay as not yet implemented. So let's try return not yet implemented. We'll probably need to pull in this file later. Just paste that string just right in there. Yeah, I thought it was weird. My I think my parents were trying to set me up with somebody. The last time I saw them, when I was helping my little brother move on Sunday, they were like, hey Tim, do you want to meet like so-and-so's kid? I was like, what? What are you talking about? No. Is this a marriage interview? No. That's weird. I do appreciate it that you're looking out for me, but I don't really need your help to set me up with somebody, I think. And I think somewhat also concerningly is that if they're also trying to set up their kid with somebody, probably not the greatest who catches, let's be honest. And that goes for me as well. Probably not the greatest who catches. Well, I think it's more that I'm a shut-in, so. You know, in Star Wars lingo, it's a trap. It does 100% sound like a trap. I don't like it when people try to set me up with other people. But I think that's more of just like me being paranoid. Because I actually have been set up before just to be laughed at. And I think that's had a detrimental effect on me in terms of relationships. Because now whenever someone's like, hey, yeah, yo, bro, I think you and her would go really well together. I'm like, I don't know anymore. Is this a trap? Are you and a bunch of my friends are just gonna show up and be like, we got you. What are you doing? I'm like, And so now whenever anyone's like, yo, check her out, I'm like, nah, I don't know. I'm thinking, by the way, this is why I'm just kind of like deleting and adding this back every single time. I'm thinking, a good way. I guess like we'll just do it like WebSocket server, right? So we are the server, we're not the clients. This one will be server is equal to UDP server. And that's pretty much it, yeah. Not any more complicated. We do need to add a return here. But yeah, definitely no kids for now. I like where I'm at in life. I think the big thing that a lot of people seem to not realize is that having kids is really expensive. Like, I am able to, I don't know, just blow money on whatever because I don't have kids. Or I also don't have pets as well. Like, I know when I was helping my little brother move, he had just like half the stuff we were moving was cat stuff. I was like, man. One, I'm allergic to cats, so this is like absolute hell on my skin. But also, like, what the heck? There's so much cat food. There's so much cat litter. And then because he's not like super organized, there were just like tubs of cat litter, like half full. I was like, why do you have so many tubs of cat litter? Why not just use up the one tub? I was like, I don't know. What are you talking about? They're so heavy because cat litter is just like almost literally just sand with anti-smelling technology. So server starts. So I need to verify one thing really quick. So UDP, so WebSocket server, we can just start it, right? We can just start. Hey, I'm not sure. After starting the client, oh good. Okay, so we can't use these in all the same ways. Yeah. No pets. I just have myself, and I am myself like extremely low maintenance, which is good. How do we do it for this? So server pull. No, we need to start receiver. We need to listen. Can we listen for this? So WebSocket server, do we listen or do we just connect? This is WebSocket client. This is completely the wrong thing. Yeah, listen on a specific port. So we need to have those available. Yeah, I'm very low maintenance. I think I'm actually, I did take care of a cat for like a week as like a trial thing. I think the cat was more high maintenance than I am, for sure. Like cat, you need to feed it, you know, at least once a day, preferably like twice a day. Whereas me, I'm like, I don't know. feed me at least like 3 times a week and I'm good. Where the 3 times a week are like days where I go for a run. All right, so both of these are just server listen, and I think these use the same API, which is good. So server listen, bind, so the port and bind address. This one has, okay, no, okay, so we must do it like this then. Okay, inside each match statement, since actually the API is not the same. The function header, or at least the function name that we want to call is the same, listen, but the order of the parameters is not the same, which makes this a little difficult. Big Lee is now hosting. Oh, thank you very much for the host. Appreciate it. So let's see. The Twitch dashboard doesn't actually tell me that, although I've heard that there's a way to get that kind of notification on there. It's more, I just saw the JTV. I'm assuming JTV is like the old Justin TV thing. So it's one of the legacy features from Justin TV before it died, and then they went all in on Twitch. So I saw the notification on my overlay. Let me see. I need to add a few things here. So on start server, okay, so config values, we need to be able to listen on a specific port. We don't care about a bind address. Oh, hello, Blood Planet. Sick cats. I'm avoiding saying the name of the the NFT thing intentionally. NFTs pretty dumb, but a lot of people are going into NFTs. Did you know, I work for, or in consulting services at least, for a big bank. And they're setting up like all kinds of blockchain and NFT stuff. Like, so big banks are trying to get in on it too. Because it's a big market, right? You know, any cash flow is a cash flow. But yeah, how are you? Thank you very much for the follow. Yeah, like I remember, like, we were just sitting through, or I say they, it was me. Me plus some other people, because someone else had already taken care of the initial setup, but then they were on PTO, so I was sitting in. Sat there for like a 3-hour working session with like 5 guys from Switzerland, 1 dude from Ireland, 1 dude from the States, and then there was me. I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. Like, clearly the sponsor of the project doesn't know what the heck an NFT is. Or even what the heck, like, Ethereum, what the difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin is. And I was like, man, I'm paid to be here, so I'm going to sit here. I'm going to hold my tongue because I don't want to get fired. Does that surprise you? Oh, absolutely not. It did surprise me, though, that I was actually involved. Because, like, the current project that we're on, or at least I'm on, and the rest of my team is on, is like basically spinning up Kubernetes clusters on mainframes. So I was like, why the heck are you, why the heck am I here? Why am I here? Why are we using a Kubernetes cluster on a mainframe in order to host this node? Like, wouldn't you want to do this on something that's a bit more proven, like x86? Like, Kubernetes on x86, that's pretty standard. Like, it's tested, it works 100%. Why are we using a Kubernetes cluster on a mainframe? Because not everything, like, in theory, because you're running everything on a VM anyways, it shouldn't matter. But there's a few things that are not, I guess, what's the word? What's the term? Applicable across both architectures. Right. There's a ton of things we've had to recompile, specifically for. I'm not going to mention the architecture, but because that could get me in trouble. It is a mainframe. You know. Like when you're, you know the saying, like when you're doing, only do one illegal thing at a time. It holds true for software development as well. Like don't do two weird things at once. Only do one weird thing at once. Otherwise you have no idea what the heck is going to explode in software terms. Maybe literally, I don't know that much about mainframes. I do know that mainframes are very, very resilient to like crashing. Like you can even hot swap the CPU. At least that's what I understand. It's pretty cool. And actually, I think like from what I've heard, you didn't hear this from me, but a lot of companies are investing in mainframes for a multitude of reasons. One, very resilient. Two, they take up almost no space compared to like the equivalent computing power that you would need for like an x86 cluster, right? Like a mainframe, it's like a one really big box, but then you can split that box into multiple logical partitions, aka an LPAR. Very cool. And then because of that, like if you remove, x86 you can remove a box, but then you need to have all the associated wiring for that, right? If you want to add and remove things from your cluster, whereas on a mainframe, it doesn't matter. The mainframe doesn't care. It will schedule resources appropriately, so you can like add new switches, take away switches, whatever. And the mainframe will take care of the rest, which is cool. But I don't understand why we're also putting like a Bitcoin node on it. Or not on it, on a Linux VM running on top of the mainframe. On a service, on a cluster that isn't even 100% functional. So, next time on Rants with Tim, we'll be talking about putting Visual Studio Code on a mainframe, which is actually a really cool project, but whatever. Because Visual Studio Code is made with Electron, you can actually serve it over the internet. Therefore, you just need to have the server implemented somewhere. So it's a cool initiative. That actually makes sense. That's proven. Let me see. What am I doing? Ports. So this wraps this data. This won't actually exist just yet. So we can do res. This is some sort of result. This is my custom thing. So because this is one of the Godot modules I've compiled in. So if res is error, a port is some sort of string value. Hold on. Port is equal to res unwrap if res is okay. This is very Rust style syntax. Else, we need to have some sort of, oh, we shouldn't do it like this. If res is error, short circuit. Unable to get port, well, TR, so translates remote control server no port found, because I'm doing all of this via a translation resource. Valid server type. That's a good one. Remotes. Don't type it again. Yeah, but you know a meme that I've been seeing a lot recently? Even like it came out of nowhere. Well, it's not came out of nowhere, but I've been seeing it more and more, even though the movie is somewhat old at this point. Is the American Psycho scene? It's like let's see Paul Allen's keyboard, or that's the where I started seeing it. But it's like let's see Paul Allen's card. It's impeccable with the subtle off-white coloring. Oh my god, it even has a watermark. I've been seeing that a lot more on social media. It's a very good movie. But I feel like from like when I got out of school up until maybe this year, I didn't really see it all that much. But now it's like I see it everywhere. It's like someone will be showing off like, oh, look at this steak I made. Oh, but let's see Paul Allen's steak. You know, I get it. Yeah, it's like why is the movie coming back? Like it was pretty good. And that's also a very good scene. The ending of American Psycho is pretty bad, in my opinion. If you haven't seen it, memes come in cycles. Oh yeah, it's true. I'm just waiting for Advice Animals to come back. I really liked Advice Animals. I was a big fan of those. I liked Advice Animals. Like Business Cat is very good. What's another one? Try to start server with an invalid port, or with no port defined. With no port defined. They picked up by TikTok again. They'll come back. Sorry, I'm not familiar with TikTok. Are you referring to TikTok? What is this TikTok? Is this some sort of clock company? Yeah, I'm not on TikTok whatsoever. I think Reddit already eats enough of my time. Or you're using speech to text. Oh, I don't trust speech to text, personally. Like I can type with one hand at a pretty decent clip. I can type at about like 40 words per second, not per second, 40 words per minute with one hand, which is fast enough for just chatting. Speech to text, I don't know. I just don't trust it. Anything where I don't have direct control, I don't usually trust it all that much. Bad at spelling, I'm not a very good typer, so I have to. Fair enough. I think my typing form is pretty bad because I only use like 3 fingers on each hand. But I can get up to 120 words per minute. And I can touch type as well because I have a system for it. Pinkies are pretty much only ever used for pressing shift. I press shift with mostly my right pinky. I don't use my right thumb. I hit most of the keys with my left hand, but I'm not left-handed. It sounds like absolutely insane, and you would be correct to think it's absolutely insane, but it works for me. But anyways, when you're typing stuff, it doesn't really matter anyways. Or I guess not when you're typing stuff. When you are programming, it doesn't matter. Because like a common misconception for programming is thinking that the hardest part about programming is the typing part, and that's completely untrue. Like you always see like the hacker typer thing. Was it hacker typer? That's a pretty good one. Or you just type and you think like, oh man, he's programming so hard right now. But I don't know. Most of programming is actually like staring at a bit of code for like an hour and then be like, oh, okay. You know, like I think like a productive day is like writing 100 lines of code, which isn't that many lines of code, right? Like I think this project has about 10,000 lines of code, right? But once you start working with big projects, making any sort of change is like considered, like any sort of change greater than like 10 lines is, or 5 lines even, is considered a big change, right? Because there's a lot of things that can break. So you got to be careful. You have to be careful. Otherwise, yeah, you're in for a bad time. Actually, I can just run this like so. I need to check against the TCP server, aka the REST server. So like what thing we have to specifically listen against. So TCP server, listen. So we can listen onto a port, and we can also just bind as well. So maybe that is fine. I don't know. So server, maybe, yeah, for now we can keep it like this. It's a little bit cleaner. Or maybe bind address should be explicit, question mark? I gotta think about that. So for here, you're listening for, if bind address is set to any valid address. I guess it's okay. Like I don't see why you would ever listen to a different IP address, since you should always be listening from localhost. You should never be trying to listen on, I guess, another machine IP. That doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe it's okay. By the way, I've been drinking this hard kombucha. Let me tell you, it's very good. I don't really know what it's made. What the heck is kombucha actually? Kombucha is black tea. Or kombucha, which is made of water, sugar, black tea, yeast, and bacteria. Very good. Let me tell you, it's very tasty. It doesn't cost that much more than like other types of fancy beer. Reminds me of kind of like reminds me of drinking a saison if you're into craft beers. Saison, not my favorite type of craft beer. I prefer sours, but it's also extremely strong in terms of alcohol percentage. It's 8.5%. Costs about as much as like a double IPA. Pretty good. Alright, so remote control server. Oh, whoops. Let's see, how was I doing it here? So we start listening on the thingamajig. We will stop server is equal to false. So if stop server is equal to false, then that's an error. Just gotta add in some checks here, because this is not called every single frame. This is called on a button press. So we can be a little slow about it. So we'll call this translate remote control server already running. So the reason why I'm naming things, and it's kind of like really verbose way, is that there's no way of namespacing all these translations. So I am like manually namespacing it. So remote control server is the namespace, basically. Oh, and this should be called remote control server extension. All right, let's do that really quick. Remote control server extension. So let's replace it with remote control server extension. So actually, I think at this point, a lot of the code is already like pretty good to go. Like people can start writing their own extensions, but I don't expect people to until I release my own. kind of like a general suite of extensions, and then it's easy for other people to figure out like, oh, you know, like, this extension works like this, then I can modify it so I can do my own stuff, right? I mean, at least that's how I program it. That's how I do a lot of my programming. So I'll look at something that's already working, run it myself, and like, oh, okay, that's how it works, and then we'll just kind of keep poking at it until it evolves into its own thing, you know? Server, remote control, server is already running. Very good. Logger error, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So stop server is false. That's right. Let's look at what I was doing here. So listen thread is equal to thread new thread start perform reception. So then, let me see. Okay, so while not stop server, right? So this is how we just keep it spinning. Receive doesn't need to be in its own thing, but that's fine. Server pull. Okay, and then this is where it starts to get kind of funky. Is that we might need to split this up between different server types, because every server, like TCP, UDP, and WebSocket, all implements pull, I think, probably. You know what? This might not take pull. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. How did I make this work? Listen. Hey, listen. Listen. Oh no. Oh no. UDP implements pull. WebSocket implements pull. I think. Actually, WebSocket might not even implement pull. How did I do the WebSocket stuff? Because I did write a WebSocket server. Well, did I write a WebSocket server thing? Maybe I didn't. Oh no. These all have different ways of listening, I think. So it starts listening on the given ports, blah blah, stops the server cleared states. Oh no, WebSocket doesn't even need to pull. WebSocket just does its own thing, so it listens for signals. I have no idea. What? I'm not, I have no idea. I'm not the computer whiz you are. Yeah. I'm missing a few words there. Alright. I'm not really a computer whiz, really. Like, I'm actually more known at work for my presentation ability. And then, as long as, like, I have an experts, like, around. Oh, okay. No, we can still pull. Yeah, we can still pull for WebSockets and UDP. It's just the hard part is, okay, perform reception. So like, there's like perform reception pull, and then also potentially a separate thing, which is like perform reception take connection. And then this is a Godot requirement that you need to pass in some parameter. I don't actually know what the parameter is supposed to be, but it's just like a quirk of how their, I guess, their thread architecture just kind of works. I do know someone who might know something more about this than I do. Is that like a Pawn Stars kind of thing? I know a guy. No, I've written servers for all three types. It's just that it all kind of blends together after a little bit. So I'm trying to remember how to do it. You know, it's tough, right? It's tough. If server is TCP server, so if it's some sort of TCP server, then we'll do listen thread start self perform. What am I doing? Just copy and paste it. So you don't fat finger it. Oh, like right there where I fat fingered it. Perform reception take connection, else we'll do the other one, which is we'll just have to poll for it. Listen thread start. Right, so I don't believe TCP server needs to poll for connections. It just needs to take connection or check to see if a connection is available. Otherwise, we can just poll and hope it's good enough. And then maybe I really should just split this up. Yeah, you know what? I should split these up between TCP. So there's basically like a TCP one. There's a UDP one and a WebSocket one. So let's do this. Because I'm pretty sure like we'll start running into problems once we start trying to take connections. Yeah, we'll start running into problems once we start trying to take connections. So let's do WebSocket, and then we'll do the same thing here. And we'll only ever have one thread running at a time, so it's not a huge problem. There's just going to be a little bit of overlap between these code paths. That's fine. That's fine. But if we're doing this, if we're doing it this way, we might as well do everything this way, because then we need to listen on the ports and then start the thread in a special way. Yeah. So we can do thread, or listen thread at least, is equal to new thread. This one, just need to make sure we clean it up, otherwise you will leak the thread. This one as well, listen thread is equal to null. But then here, that gives us the ability to do this. So listen thread, start, so this is the WebSocket. That's fine. And then UDP, very similar. Server, listen on the ports that we found. Listen thread, start, whatever the heck this is. Okay, cool. Did I change out everything? No? Perform reception, TCP, sorry. And then every single one of these needs to poll. So server poll. So this is used in UDP server and one of these, network multiplayer stream peer. Yeah. So it's some sort of polling. So for both of these, we need to poll. That's fine. TCP will think about it, but I think that should be okay. Stop server is false. Yeah. Oh, and then here, need to make sure that before we start the thread, we set stop server to false. Yeah. Take most of this stuff out. stop server is equal to false, or it's true. Stop server is equal to true. Okay. Okay. Then I just need to fill out all of these. So UDP and WebSocket will be the most optimal, I think. TCP is kind of scuffed because there's not a great way of sending like real-time information over TCP. Because that would be, well, technically WebSocket is over TCP, but that's not the kind of TCP that we're talking about. Let me see. OpenCFace works, or the OpenCFace receiver that I wrote works over UDP, and then I did write one of these OVS WebSocket implementation also in GD script that works via, you know, WebSocket. So I'll have to think about that. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna use the bathroom. BRB. Hello. Oh, actually, I forgot something. I'll be right back. Hello, hello. I'm back. Baby, come back. Have you ever had like part of your nail? I think it's called a hangnail. But like, it's like a freak hangnail. It comes out of nowhere and like it rips off like the edge of your nail up until the. I don't know what to call it. All along the side though. That's what happened earlier on in the stream. I was just kind of I don't even know what I was doing. I think I was like adjusting my shirts that you can't see, but I can see. And then in the process of doing that, like ripped like a bunch of just nail off of my nail? Question mark? That really, it hurt a little bit at first. Like I like pinched my nail, kind of like ripped off a little part of the underside, but now it's like, ow. Ugh. It's like I can feel it. I can feel it. Exposed to the air. That's never happened before. Like I ripped off a little part of it before by accident, but it's the first time it's ever gone like all the way to the back of a nail. Anyways, now that everyone's left after being super grossed out, let's continue. So here's the OBS stuff. It might be better to not have everything in one file and instead have this as just like a different thing, because the WebSocket connections require like all these connection functions, right? So like connection closed, error established, right? Data received is also pretty important. Server close request, very important. So it might be better to have these as different things. Yeah, that's well, those are client things though, right? Those are clients. WebSocket server. Oh, well, okay. So then you'll have instead client close request, client connected, client disconnected, data received. That's right. Right. So this is the WebSocket clients, but then on the other side you'll have the corresponding request just from the server to client as opposed to server. No, client to server as opposed to server to client. Yeah, that makes sense that it mirrors it. Okay, so let's do that. So remote control server. Let's do WebSocket. Yeah, we'll just call it WebSocket.gd. Why not? Probably shouldn't be doing it like this, but it's too late now. Updates. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Yeah, that's fine. Let's grab these. Usually when you create this from Godot, it inserts these for you, but whatever. Extends WebSocket server. There we go. We'll have to implement all of these connections. Let's actually open this up here. So Godot WebSocket server. Actually, how did I do this before? I used to have this implemented in VPupper before the huge rewrites. Let me see. Where was the super rewrite? Super rewrite. Super... Or the super cleanup. All right, so we'll go to this commit. Don't know how old it is. Go to resources. Not resources. Remote control manager. That's right. Okay. So we'll just start writing, right? On client close request ID int code int raison. My favorite kind of programming is when I have a reference and then I can just type. Turn your brain off. That's actually my favorite kind of work. Like when I was I mentioned on the weekend I was helping my little brother move. I actually really like doing just menial labor like that. But I want to do it as a job for the rest of my life? Probably not. You know, I do like my current job where I just kind of sit in meetings and talk. But I should say that, I should say that my favorite job I've ever had was when I was just rolling burritos. I worked at a burrito place for 2.5 years during university. It was a lot of fun. You know, you just kind of hang out, do nothing, and then be ready for. I always work closing shifts because it was easier to get those kind of shifts, and it also gave me a lot more leverage when negotiating for like privileges and stuff. It's like, all right, well, you know, I can handle closing like the entire, you know, the fronts of the place, not the front of the place, but I can handle closing the line by myself, right? So that, you know, the burrito lines, you have the steamers, you have all the hot foods, the cold foods, the chips. You know, I can handle closing that myself. That's easy. You know, you're not going to find anyone else who can do it as efficiently and as quickly as I can. And as many days as I could, because I worked like 4 days a week. You know, because you can't work 40 hours, otherwise they got to give you benefits. So you always work a little less than that, right? So func on, it's not on ready, we'll just call it a knit. Alright, so we'll take a well, we don't need to store anything, right? All we need to do on a knit is connect several signals. So we'll connect our so client, nope, that's not how you do it. Connect client close request. Okay, client close request. I don't understand it, like, what kind of psycho types in this signal name but without the quotes? Which is like, that's what the VS Code plugin assumes you'll do, which is like, I don't understand. Yeah, like what the heck is this? But then if you type this in, it inserts quotes for you. What? Guess it's kind of broken. Clients connected. On clients connected. On client disconnected. And then data received. Okay. Well, that's probably fine. Connect all this stuff, init, whatever. Really the only things that are different are these things here. And then after that, yeah, that's probably fine. That's probably fine. So then this counts as our server that we can use here. So we pull for stuff, etc., whatever. Oh, and actually, yeah, that's it. That's all you really need to do. Yeah. After that, we just need to have a poll interval defined as one of the configuration keys. So remote control server poll interval. Remote control server poll interval, something like that. So we do need to make several of these accessible. So we'll just do I'm thinking. We need each box container. So we'll hold on. My new keyboard has a much lighter key weight, which is why sometimes you'll just see me kind of do what I just did there. I'll press O over and over again. It's not because I'm like pressing O, it's because I'm resting my fingers on it. I have a kind of like a heavy resting weight, but I also type very lightly. It's kind of weird. So I need to be cognizant of that. All right, so there's the ports, and then there's the poll interval. So we'll need ports hbox, which is some sort of hbox container. We'll do port hbox, or we can call it some control util expand fill ports hbox. Then we'll do port label, some sort of label, port label, text is equal to the translated remote control. Do I have that defined? Just port? No, I don't. So I'll need to do remote control server port label, something like that. Add it here. So there's your port, and then we'll also need to have what was the other thing? Poll interval. Interval. There we go. So the other thing, but we'll get around to that to do. Poll interval hbox. So you can always assume that you have the control util available to you, because that's one of the built-ins. Because the idea here is that if you don't want to have the remote control functionality, you could just delete the entire folder and then it won't be loaded in. Right? Because that can kind of freak some people out, right? It's like, oh, we're broadcasting on a local host port. What are you doing with that? It's like, yeah, we're not doing anything with it, but you know, if it makes you uncomfortable, you could always delete it, and then it won't be loaded by the application, which is good, right? It gives you options as to what things you actually want to be running in your application, or even just like included with your application, which most other programs don't actually give you control over. So I thought this would be a nice addition, but it might, at this point, it might be kind of a hindrance having so many things not included by default. So you can't take advantage of a lot of defaults. You know, there's ups and downs, pluses and minuses to everything. I, as a more technically minded individual, prefer to have more control, even if I won't be using it, which might be a fallacy now. Yeah, I've been using a happy hacking keyboard. Pretty good. Something I've noticed though is that the keys are pretty sensitive, which is unfortunate. I wish the key weight was a bit heavier, because I did remap a lot of the keys. So like I now have WASD as my arrow keys, along with the old Apple style arrow keys, aka press function, and then you have open square brackets as up, forward slashes down, and then you have semicolon and apostrophe as left and right, which is kind of, I like the idea of it. I just wish the key weight was a bit heavier. But the Topre keys, 10 out of 10. I think once you go Topre, it's hard to go back to any sort of actual mechanical switch. The biggest downside is that it's so expensive, because every single Topre board must be imported. Like they only make it in Japan. And I think they're all made by Panasonic. But you know, it's a good keyboard. It's a good keyboard. So we have all of these. Let's continue on. So port label, and you have the port line edit. Expand fill ports line edit. All right, and then here the text needs to be set to am app manager, config manager, get data, and then I can define a default value. So get data. Config keys, port. And then by default, we will be listening on. Let's define a default port. Default port. Some sort of integer, because you can never have a float as a port. We'll call this. I'm thinking. I'm thinking. What's a good default port? 9999. I think 9999 is not so bad. Not so bad. And then we'll just have to string it. So we'll string whatever we get out of here. Also make sure that you turn off your caps lock. So default ports. Yeah, there we go. That's not so bad. Not so bad. So we'll do add a child. Port hbox. My favorite Smash player. Child. Wait, hold on. Port hbox, add child. Port label. Port hbox, child. Port line edit. Yeah, and there we go. So we have one of our things implemented. Pull interval. So now we just need to do the same thing for pull interval. One of the painful things about doing this all by hands, right? So we're not using any text scenes, although I totally could. It just is a bit more annoying to have to do. So pull interval hbox, add a child. Pull interval label. Yeah. At least via code, you can kind of guarantee the order that things are initialized. Well, you can be sure, because then you don't have to guess, like, okay, are we initializing things in the text scene, or are we initializing things in the GD scripts? Pull interval line edit, and pull interval line edit dot text is equal to. So the pull interval, I haven't really thought about that so much, but I think const default pull interval should be a float, and then we'll call it, I don't know. What's a good pull interval? I see here I have a pull interval set to 0.1. Sure, why not? 0.1. So every 0.1 seconds we will, or 0.1 delta seconds. I'm not sure what the if there are 60 seconds, or if it goes on base 10. Is it base 60 or is it base 10? I don't know. Or, you know, base 60 expressed in base 10. I think the idea of modulo is one of those things that people just don't think about that much, which is interesting because we do use modulo a ton of in our daily lives, right? Like telling like time is in, you know, you modulo 60, you know, dates are modulo 365 or 30 or 31 depending on which month, or if it's February, I suppose, which is modulo 28. Interesting. Pull interval, and then we have default pull interval. Okay. I think that's okay. Pull interval hbox add child pull interval line edit. Yeah, so that should be fine. Just a ton of errors. Ignore those. So we look here. Look at that. I think that looks okay. I don't think we need this placeholder thing anymore, but I think now we just need to have like tooltips assigned to this. So then you select which server you want. So if I click rest, this is not yet implemented, so this should throw an error. Yeah, and then nothing happens. Not yet implemented. We'll probably need to pull this in. Pull in this file later. Yeah, here. Yeah. But then these are the ports, and then these are the pull intervals that would be used. These would have to be updated, I guess, somewhat independently. Oh, you know what? I just noticed we got a few more stars on the repository as well. Feels good, man. Because I have this entire project kind of listed on my resume that I send out to people now. So I check it out. I'm the main developer of this project. 300 stars. Not quite in the 1,000 range. I think that's the next big tipping points, is when you can start saying like I have a, you know, it's a casual 1,000 stars, where they start to they have to truncate the number now. But you know, 300s, it's respectable. Any project in the hundreds is a respectable project, I think. Okay, let's see. I need to change how I'm loading in several of these servers. So we'll think about that. But at least now we are... At least now we're doing things more or less properly, right? So boom, this is what it's gonna look like. It's kind of ugly because it really only needs to be like this big. I'm not sure how I want to have plugins like size themselves. Yeah, because actually like it could just be like this big, right? Like this is all you really need. And it's also kind of neat how like all the controls like size themselves as well, which is really cool. Look at that. So they maintain about like a 50% scaling. Yeah, I've never really noticed that. That's cool. That's cool. I can't select the bottom part though, which is kind of weird. Yeah, that was kind of weird. Yeah, and we don't have it set to stretch all the way down, which is fine as well. Whatever. This is the minimum that you could use. I'm also noticing that it's not super noticeable on stream, but I think if you squint, you can kind of see it. But I'm actually able to adjust the shadow down to a minimum length, right? So you can kind of see the shadow here stops here instead of here. And then if I try to grab the corner, that's not valid. You actually have to drag it from where the shadow stops, which is here. Yeah, I'm not sure how to fix that though. That's weird. That's weird. It's like the minimum size is actually based off of this label on top, not based off of the children components within the pop-up. Yeah, I'll have to think about that. I have to think about that as well. But there's your WebSockets. Let's grab the other stuff. So there's WebSocket. Let's do udp.gd. Slap this stuff into there. This will extends UDP server. And I think the HTTP server or the TCP server will have to. I would rather reuse my prior implementation rather than copy and paste it in. But yeah, I've done it before. Not a huge deal. What do I need for the UDP stuff though? So UDP does have a few. Actually, UDP has almost nothing associated with it. So maybe it's only WebSocket that needs to be special. Or maybe it does. I don't know. Let me think. Like maybe I just need these classes to exist so that. I'm thinking. How do I want to structure this? Because I'm almost tempted at this point to say like, oh, we don't need like this separate WebSocket class, right? We can just create it like a in the same file, just at the top. Define like the WebSocket, there's the UDP, etc., etc. And that might be a bit easier. I don't know. Let me see. OBS WebSocket. What did I do here? So this is also this is a client, right? It's not actually the server, but it's roughly the same. I think. Yeah, this is a client. But on client close request, what am I supposed to do here? WebSocket server. Emitted when a client requests a clean close. You should keep polling until you get a client disconnected signal with the same ID to achieve the clean close. See WebSocket peer close for more details. So is this a WebSocket peer or no? WebSocket peer, class representing a specific WebSocket connection. So is this a WebSocket peer? This is a packet peer. This is also a packet peer. Okay. Interesting. So I guess remote control manager. What did I do for client close request? Server get peer ID close. Okay, well we can do that, and then we'll just keep polling, I guess. So we can hit it with a get peer ID close. We don't really have a logger associated with this, but we could. Let me see. So we can pass along the logger, I guess. So var logger is some sort of logger. Can't type. So logger info client close request received. And then we'll just kind of pass along the code and the reason. And you know what? I think we can actually push this into the translate thing. So WebSocket. Close request. Client close request received. So we have code, and then we have the reason. So this actually is 100% valid in this context. It's kind of neat, in my opinion. Which is why I'm a big fan of the how I designed this API. Like, this is one of the really good things, in my opinion. Surprisingly efficient. Look at that. What is that emote? Pump ocean swing. Is that olive oil? Remote control server clients connected. Client connected. From Pumpkin Notion, she's amazing. Gonna be honest, I don't actually watch that many other Twitch streamers. Like I watch streamers if they are like, I don't know, like interesting to listen to, or if it's like they either need to have a good cadence to them, which is kind of hard to define, or if they're like funny. Like you gotta be like, you either gotta make me laugh or you gotta be like nice to listen to. So I think there's a lot of streamers that, you know, they don't really talk that much, right? They're just focused on playing the game, and so you just hear them like, ah shit. You know, your standard like League of Legends streamer, basically. I think like Tyler, what's his face? Tyler 1 is pretty good. If only because he's I don't know. Hard to describe it. Has a good cadence though. I don't really watch him that much. Northern Lion, great streamer. Great cadence, also is pretty funny. I watch VTubers on Twitch, so I don't watch anyone else like that. You're watching me right now though. So, like, I really only use the VTuber tag because I work on VTuber software. Like, sometimes when the very few times I actually stream like video games, I occasionally will take the VTuber tag off, just so I don't trick anybody, because this isn't really like a real VTuber, in my opinion. Maybe that's incorrect. You still interacting with me and stuff? Well, you know, I don't mind just a little bit of talking, a little bit of banter, you know. It don't matter to me. It's all the same. I think that's actually, like, I view like streaming as kind of a form of like work training, actually. It's kind of weird. Like I mentioned before that I do like a lot of like demos and stuff, right, for work. And so this is kind of just like an extension of that, right? Because like a good work demo is pretty much the same, right? Like you need to be able to talk and, you know, type in commands or whatnot at the same time, which lots of people tend to struggle with for whatever reason. Right, like I think a lot of people more or less can only focus on one thing at a time. Like they say that they're good at multitasking, but they're not actually good at multitasking. What they're good at doing is sequencing things, right? So you'll do like, oh, I'll click on this thing, then I'll say, okay, now I'm clicking on this thing. Then they'll be like, okay, now I'm gonna switch the tab, and then I'll say I'm gonna switch the tab, right? But what a good demo is you say like, all right, then we'll start typing in, you know, then we need to implement the logger function, blah blah blah, and then you need to be, you know, implementing the logger function at the same time. That's the important bit. Lots of people struggle with that part, which is what I tend to excel at, right? Like if you ever watch like a presentation or whatever, I suppose it's been a little bit since you might have been in school, but a lot of people, they'll like do a thing and like just in complete silence, and it's super awkward. But like a good demo, you'll never have any significant amounts of downtime in the talking, right? Like, so if you're ever doing like today in demos, right? Like I had to do a demo walkthrough for the x86 guys because you know, we work on mainframe stuff, right? So it takes 15 minutes to tear down a Kubernetes cluster, 40 plus minutes to redeploy it, and then you need some way to fill the time. So that's, you know, it's not something that comes natural to a lot of people to like ramble on about something, but still sounding like you know what you're talking about, which is what, you know, that's why I think streaming is kind of nice, right? Teaches you to do some technical stuff, do some higher level thinking kind of stuff, you know, while at the same time being able to keep up a more or less natural flow of conversation, something like that. And then I suppose at the same time I'm also getting inebriated. My favorite part of the day. Makes a lot of things easier to manage. Data received. Var data, some sort of string is get peer ID. I do it for the social interaction. Yeah, I feel that. That's for sure. Also, something that's very good. You know, a little bit of social interaction is actually very good for you. I remember when I took it's called behavioral economics, right? So a mix of, it's like applied statistics basically. Like if I was going to get a master's degree, that's probably what I would get it in. But it's like social interaction is 100% a skill that you need to practice. 100%. Like any way that you can do it. It's like doing it via text, not the greatest, but you know, it's still interaction, right? But it's like roughly you need to exchange about, it's roughly 30 sentences with another living human being per day in order to keep yourself more or less socialized. I feel social interaction without social interaction, I get depressed. Feed on. Yeah, exactly. Right? It's like you need to exchange about 30 sentences with another human being per day, or otherwise you start becoming unsocialized. And what unsocialized or socialized means in this context is that you know, like you said, you become depressed. You start losing the ability to read social cues, which it describes most of Twitch chat. Heyo. Or I guess most people who spend too much time on the internet anyways. And of course, in-person interaction is much preferable because a lot of communication is non-verbal, right? Which is why VTubers are kind of nice. This VTuber isn't very good, right? Because it's a very basic model. It only really has the ability to show this basic one unless I manually toggle the expressions, because expression baking isn't quite implemented yet, but I would like to have it implemented. But the ability to read expressions, that's a learned skill. The ability to, kind of feel what the other person is saying is also a learned skill. Just doing it via text is somewhat valid. You don't get the same kind of practice from it, from what, at least from, you know, the research from, what was it, 2016, which is when I took that class. That was one of the few classes in university that I actually like learned some stuff in. The rest was just like, I don't know. How do you calculate, you know, the derivative? How do you calculate a 3-year annuity? I don't know, man. Just follow the formula. follow the formula, and also give me 20 sheets of paper, and I can do it for you. It's about the same as mine. Only difference is it looks like a human. Oh, you are. Oh, you also stream, right? So, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that the ability to talk, socialize with others, and feed off of social cues. That's all learned behavior, or at least practiced behavior. So if you don't get that kind of practice, you will, you know, you'll lose the ability to do it. Which is why it's nice, right? That's why I like streaming. Even if I'm not really talking to anybody, I can pretend like I'm talking to somebody, which might make me a crazy person, but yeah, whatever, you know. I'm not losing your mind, you're losing your mind. I'm not crazy, you're crazy. I suppose since you are a streamer, I should give you a follow. Hold on, I got you. I'll give you a follow right now. Played Hollow Cure, absolute degenerate. A fellow Hollow Live enjoyer. Congrats on your follow. I'm sorry, I'm like thinking about like multiple things at once. So my thoughts are getting extremely scattered. It's like, oh, you're a streamer. I should follow the streamers that follow me. But also I'm trying to like think of a technical solution to this problem. And it's all hitting my brain at different points in time, which is freaking me out. Yeah, there's totally no one here right now. It's all in your head. Yeah, I mean, if you were to talk to a bot, like if you're a bot right now, that'd be pretty cool, you know? Congratulations, you have passed the Turing test. Or maybe I'm not smart enough to detect a bot. Either way. That's pretty cool. What else do I need to do here? I mean, that's pretty much it, right? Client connected, and then we can slap this stuff into here. Client connected, ID, something like this, and then protocol. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, but for streaming and stuff, I found that the more, what's the word? Effective thing to get basically the game, the algorithm, for lack of a better term, right, is to, you need to have people like chatting, like active in your chat. Like, that's something that a lot of people, or I guess a lot of viewers don't realize, is that like chat participation is way more important than just watching, right? Because I think the algorithm doesn't really care, like whatever Twitch's algorithm is, doesn't really care about you know, how many people are viewing, unless you're like a Twitch partner, I guess. What they more care about is how many people are, you know, interacting, because if you're interacting, that means you're probably looking at ads and whatnot, something like that. So I do know that I have like some people, because I can view the people in chat. I think I can actually view more information than the, you know, chatters can view. You know, get called out, etc., etc. But the thing that helps with the algorithm the most is like just dropping like literally any message into the chat, because that helps boost your statistics. Chatting is great, but lurkers are the backbone of any stream. This is true. This is true. But they don't actually, lurkers don't really contribute to your follower number, or not your follower number, your viewer number, right? Which is the thing. They don't, if they're lurking but they're not actively participating, they don't really contribute to your statistics, from what I can tell, right? I think they actually count as something else. Like, if you've ever looked at like a bigger stream, you can tell who are listener onlys, which tells you can extrapolate that out, right? If Twitch is able to view who is a listener only, that means they're also subdividing your viewers into two different groups, right? The lurkers who, they don't say anything, but they might be watching, and a listener only who might not be actually viewing your stream and thus is not actually viewing ads, but they might be chatting. And then there's like the listener only and lurker who is simultaneously not viewing your stream and then also not chatting in chat, thus creating more engagements, etc. They can, as far as I know. Some of them disappear. I don't know all the stuff, and I think you had asked some other bigger streamers. I know all about this. Yeah. Well, there's things that you can just extrapolate by yourself. That's what I'm saying, right? The ability to know who is a listener-only viewer by Twitch means that they know, right? Or they know who is, not viewing ads, etc. They also know who is talking and who is not talking. So then you have 4 categories of viewers. And there's only 2 categories that really matter, right? Those who are actively watching and also actively chatting. And those who are not actively watching, but they're listening, and actively chatting. Those are the only 2 groups that matter in terms of viewership. Right? Because you need to look at it from like a business perspective. Because the way that Twitch makes money is, 1, subscribers, of course. But 2, and I think more importantly, is through showing advertisements. Because, unless because if you subscribe via Twitch Prime, they actually lose money based off that. Or maybe not. Maybe they come even. I don't know. I don't know how much offering a free Twitch Prime subscription costs Amazon. But what I do know is that for mobile games, for 100% for mobile games, selling your game for $1, I've just completely stopped thinking about programming at this point. I've gone off into rants about advertisements, right? So you sell your game for $1, but you have advertisements. The advertisements will actually generate more revenue for you, right? I assume nothing since Amazon owns Twitch. Yes, but actually receiving a Twitch Prime subscription means that Twitch has to pay you $2.50. So they do actually lose money on every Twitch Prime subscription. But advertisements, at least at a very low scale, if you can show, I think it was like 20 advertisements to somebody, you'll break even past like the $1 mark. And then every advertisement past that is just basically free money, right? Whereas if you sell someone an app for $1, that's $1 and that's it. So, and then I assume it works the same way for like Twitch streams, right? So of course Twitch streams, a subscription gives you $2.50. A Twitch Prime subscription, which is the lowest tier subscription, gives you $2.50. But advertisements have a different cut to them. But I'm assuming that with the advertisements, Amazon takes a bigger cut of those. Because, if we're looking at my own revenues from Twitch stuff. Yeah, I don't mind showing this off. How do I how do I look at my channel analytics? Yeah, so I make almost no money from this stuff, right? So from ads, I made 29 cents this period, 36 cents this period. But from like what are we talking about? In terms of how much Twitch makes from showing those ads, they probably also take 50% of that. Something like that. So, I mean, right now I'm like costing them money, but every now and then someone will just drop a bunch of subs. So, don't know. There's a lot of math. There's a lot of, you know, things that I don't have control over, like how much of the cut of advertising revenue that I get. But all in all, big thing, big takeaways. Viewing and chatting, very important for the algorithm, because that means that you view more ads. Not viewing but still chatting means that you drive engagement, which means that more people are likely to click on your stream and might watch an ad. Everyone else doesn't matter in terms of the algorithm and how much you get recommended to other people, right? Something like that. I think that's relatively close enough to how that works. Yeah, so I mean, it's all a game that you have to learn to play. And then, am I good at playing it? Oh, absolutely not. No, I think there's other people who are way better at playing the game, but you know, whatever. I suppose I have a separate product as opposed to like a pure streamer who, like, you know, people watch for entertainment value. Whereas you know, I'm writing an application that is also completely free. I don't make any money from, but still, it's the other things that you get from it, right? The ability to brag to recruiters. It's weird actually, because a lot of companies have gone into a hiring freeze, but now I've been getting more like recruiter connection requests than ever on LinkedIn, and all of them do not send me a grammatically correct message, so I accept it, but then I like immediately block them. Because I want to get over the 500 connections count. I think it's 500 on LinkedIn, and then they stop counting it, or they stop displaying it on your public profile. But like the way that I do the LinkedIn game is like I don't talk to anybody pretty much, unless you represent like a big company, and the recruiter must send me a message in proper English. But very often I'll just get like a Twitch message, right? So it's like, yeah, like how are you? Like what the heck? What the heck is this? You know, not gonna talk about where these recruiters may or may not be based out of, but they all have like very English names. Anyways, let me see. So in remote control GUI, we do want to pull in this. So we don't want to just create a run-of-the-mill WebSocket server. What we can do here is set this equal to, we do have result just defined here. So we can do AM, EM, so app manager, extension manager. So app manager is our singleton manager, as told about 1 million times. So we can do load resource. So this is called, what did I call this? Remote control server. So this is a hard-coded value, but it also does not need to be translated. And then relative res path. So this will be called WebSocket. WebSocket.gd. So that's the relative path. Oh baby. Load a resource returns a result. So if res is error, Pass for now, so then we need to safely wrap it. Safely wrap. So let me see. If it's an error, then we need to logger error. And then probably translate it somehow, right? So basically like unable to load resource. Unable to load resource. Beautiful. I feel like after talking for an hour today, I'm more out of breath. We're talking for like 1.5 hours to about 2 hours today. I'm more out of breath than I usually am during a stream. So hold on, let me clean up. Yeah, we'll just call this clean up. Let me think about that, actually. But anyways, yeah, I spent a ton of time just talking today. More time than usual, because I'm more of a programmer, actually. Like, my job title is consultant, but you know, it's consultant for a big company. I'm not like an independent consultant, but for the first time in a while, I've actually been expected to actually talk rather than just be a random program. Oh, thank you very much for redeeming a hydrate. Just drink some water. Okay, that's 300 mil. Down the hatch. I worked 13 years in the fast food industry and so what, 2 years delivering paint. Fast food, you know, I respect that. Fast food is tough. I worked 3 months as one of the dine-in fry cooks for a Wendy's. That was probably like some of the worst 3 months of my life. You know, you wake up at like 6, need to get there at 7. You start like cleaning the drive-through, like the outside. You start doing all the prep, you know, cleaning out the fryers like that. That was horrible. I hated that. And then fry cooking is also just like a horrible thing to have to do, right? Because you stand over the hot grill. And then since you're the dine-in fry cook, you're not as important as the drive-through fry cook. So then if anything heavy needs lifting, that's up to you. I'm pretty sure they were like 100% taking advantage of me. Which is why I like one day I just quit. My last day I like was like, you know what? I quit. I'm done. And I just like threw my apron on the floor. Like, you know what? I'm done with this. I don't want to do this anymore. Cause like, oh man, like I had to clean I didn't realize cleaning the girls' bathroom would be so gross. And by cleaning the girls' bathroom, the ladies' bathroom meant like cleaning up period pads. I hated that so much. Like the stench still sticks with me. I cannot believe what people do in the Wendy's bathroom. Yeah, see? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't know why the women's bathroom is so bad, but like it's 100% like the period pads or like the tampons or whatever. Like those just smell so bad. Like it's like a pungent scent. Like I don't know how to describe it. It's just pungent in like the worst ways possible. I don't know how to describe it, but it was bad. That was really bad. Yeah, used to when you're married for a while and you've had a female sibling. You know, I never had a female sibling. I'm also like not married. Like the few times like I've been, I guess I was dating someone, you know, you don't really smell it that much. Don't really smell it that much. But then I guess also like I'm assuming that your partner, if they're a lady, doesn't just like leave period blood on the floor. Probably, hopefully, maybe they do. Maybe that's just a thing people do. But it's gross. It's so gross. I'm quite shy about all the gross disgusting. Yeah, except in public in a women's bathroom. They're quite shy about it, except where it matters. Or I guess where it impacts other people, aka a fast food fast food bathroom. Yeah. I mean, for the, you know, I think the longest I've ever dated somebody was like 3 months. So I suppose I'm not like an expert on the topic. I'm more antisocial than you would believe. Or I'm more antisocial than you would believe from the amount that I'm able to talk and also be fairly eloquent. I get very annoyed when I talk to people, unfortunately. Which surprises a fair amount of people. They're like, oh, like your job is talking to people? Like, yeah, like my job is to talk to people, but I also like hate talking to people. Or at least it's not like what I like to do in my free time. But at least with Twitch chat, I can just assume that you're not listening to me. Whereas when I'm talking in like real life, with a real, you know, like when I'm talking in meat space, right? You know, that bothers me a lot more when I just get ignored. But online, when I'm streaming, whatever. I don't know. I understand. Most people are not here to do whatever. Have a real conversation. I get it. I was gonna say there's a raid target, but they ended their stream. Probably would have liked them. I know what you mean. Unfortunately, when I had to talk to you, I had to stop the stream because, you know, speech to text. Yeah. Stop the stream. Hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you pay attention to the schedule. Yeah, well, unfortunately, I don't really raid people when I have less than 3 people, anyways. So no worries there. It makes me feel kind of weird when I raid someone with like less than 1 viewer or less than 3 viewers. Like 3 is like the cutoff point, right? Otherwise, it just feels like oh I got raided. But they rated me exclusively for the shoutouts. I'll still do it because I don't want to be mean, but you know, we all know. You know, I don't like doing that. That feels wrong. I have more pride than that. Unfortunately, I'm on my phone. You're watching from a phone. The rare phone viewer, or maybe it's like the unrare phone viewer. Maybe most people actually listen in from a phone. I actually do my best to not use my phone very much. I don't like using my phone. If it was more viable to just have a dumb phone, I would probably use a dumb phone. Like, you know, I'm a programmer. I honestly carry around like a real computer most of the time. Like I honestly kind of miss netbooks. I like netbooks, having a tiny computer. Like if I could get a dumb phone that also had a data connection that I could broadcast out to my netbook, 100% would use it. So you have more of the networking that you never know when someone will be like, oh, I like the content, I might come by and stop and say hi. Yeah, maybe. But you know, that's one of my failings, is that I have too much pride to raid someone with no reviewers. You know, like I'm not trying to get big off of streaming. I think I would actually hate it if streaming became my job, because I know I have to actually talk for hours on end every day, or at least, you know, work on software with someone watching over my back every day, which is also very tough. You know, that's not what I would consider to be a good time. I like streaming because, you know, it encourages me to not slack off, right? Like, you know, someone's kind of watching over your shoulder. But at the same time, you know, there's no pressure to get things done. Whereas at work, if you don't get anything done, you know, be put on a performance improvement plan, etc., right? Whereas here, it's like, oh, you know, I might lose a viewer or whatever, but it's not a huge deal. It's not like my entire livelihood depends on being able to stream. Maybe that's the difference between like a, you know, streaming and playing games, versus streaming and working on software or working on a project, right? That's how I feel about it. So let's see. I think that's okay. I can't really test it right now, but we totally could. Just send it. REST will not start. That's an error. But WebSocket did not start either. Question mark. Ooh. Now we're frozen. That's good. Not sure what's going on there, so we'll just kill it. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about things. Anyways, I've started making a commitment to myself to actually end on time rather than going on longer than I scheduled for. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Let's see, my bot came back online. Sometimes I'm pretty sure I know what's causing the error for my bot to go offline. So my bot stays connected to Discord for a while, but I think my reconnection logic to Twitch chat is kind of flawed because it doesn't reconnect soon enough, I guess. Let me see. There's a Discord. Yeah, there we go. There's my bot. There's a Discord if you want to check out whatever, like real-time updates, etc., etc. If not, you can always follow the project here on GitHub. It's free and open source, repupper, blah, blah, blah. MIT licensed. I'm working on hopefully getting another alpha out somewhat soon. So hopefully it should be a bit more usable. It supports all kinds of models. So regular 3D models with no pre-processing, unlike other applications of the same caliber, I guess, or the same category is probably a better term for it. Also supports VRM models, how cool, which are the standard 3D anime models that most people are more familiar with. Let me see. That's pretty much it. Give the channel a follow you haven't already. I stream Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and on Wednesdays from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I will see you later. Goodbye. I can't find OBS. Okay.